The Mana series is back with a brand new entry for the first time in a decade plus, and today we're going to be taking a look at the PlayStation 5 critic reviews for Visions of Mana. Now, right now, the game is sitting at a pretty nice 76 generally favorable Metascore. This consists of 28 58% positive, so that's going to be 75 and up, and 19, which is mixed, and that's going to be anywhere from, I think, like 60 to 74 or so, and that consists of 40%. Now, the good news is this: there's zero negative. Most people feel the game is a solid 7 out of 10 or above, with maybe a few below that. But what we're going to do in this video, we're going to break down where the high scores are, the mid scores are, and the lower scores overall. But I will say this: it falls right in line with about what I thought for this game. To me, after playing the demo, felt like it was a 7 out of 10 type of game. And I do feel that, of course, with no Nintendo Switch version of it and the big RPG base there, I hope it doesn't necessarily affect the sales too much before we get that Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game. Now let's get into the top scores so far. There's one perfect score, 10 out of 10, from Digitally Downloaded. And they said this: it's a bigger game than I was expecting. At around 50 to 60 hours at a reasonable pace, working through everything. It's by far the largest Mana game ever produced. The fact that it doesn't stop being a highly playable joy from the start right through to the end should be a good indication of just how beloved this one is set to become. It may even just unseat Secret of Mana itself. Probably not, guys. I'm adding my own commentary in there. Probably not, but hey, let's continue on here. Visions of Mana might not be quite so genre refining as that classic, but otherwise, this is a perfect representation of what Mana has always meant to represent. Now, next up is a 9 out of 10 from Gamers RD. And they said this: Visions of Mana is now a semi-open world, which improves on previous versions. The plot is basic but delightful. The battle system and customization are the most valuable features. It may have minor issues, but nothing that will spoil the adventure. All right, next up. This is the last 9 out of 10 score. This comes from RPG Gamer, and they said this: Visions of Mana is a strong entry that effectively revitalizes the lore of the series and keeps it more alive than ever. With dancing merchants, the ring system, and cute creatures such as sproutlings, the game includes many staples of the series at their best, with elemental vessels being a magnificent addition. The patience of longtime fans is paid in full, while the game will also captivate newcomers with its superb presentation and emotive story. And I have to agree, I think that the presentation, the graphics obviously are really good for this type of AA RPG. And I feel that it really holds true to what the fans are looking for when it comes to the Mana series. Now, next up, we're gonna get into some of the 8 scores here, go over a few of them. RPG Fan with an 8.7 out of 10 and said, a wonderful return to form for the Mana series. Visions of Mana will have longtime fans grinning from ear to ear. 8.5 out of 10 from Noisy Pixel, one of my favorite websites. And they said the lore-heavy narrative also becomes increasingly compelling thanks to a multifaceted and charming cast. When throwing in a new game plus and even a brand new difficulty into the mix, Visions of Mana is a refreshing, modern classic that can hook you for a gripping 60 to 70 hours without relenting. All right, I do like the new game plus and new difficulty as well. Good stuff for replay value. 8.5 from Checkpoint Gaming. And they said, I hope Visions of Mana signals a new, brighter direction for the series. This is more than a classic receiving a jaw-dropping glow-up. This is a game that gives you a classic JRPG experience while being a modern blockbuster through and through. It's one of the best looking games this generation and gives you dozens of unlockable options to customize your party your way. The story is deep and dark for a PG title and explores familiar themes in a new and engaging way. Visions of Mana confidently asserts its own spot among other long-running modern JRPGs, and I can't help but agree. It's proof that despite its age, the series still has a lot of potential left. Love to hear that when it comes to how it stacks up and what they can do going forward in the future. We've got 2 more 80s that we're going to go over, and that is from God is a Geek with an 8 out of 10 and IGN with an 8 out of 10. Let's start with God is a Geek. Visions of Mana is an enjoyable adventure that doesn't push the boundaries, but serves as a solid series entry for fans and newcomers alike. IGN follows up with Visions of Mana finally brings the long dormant classic RPG series into the modern age, looking great and playing even better thanks to multi-layered class and skill systems that interact in clever ways. There are definitely some pacing issues and a few questionable design choices later on, and the occasional frame rate drop or awkward lip syncing can distract, but the flashy and exciting combat, deeply rewarding class system, and cast of likable characters make Visions of Mana a winning comeback for the classic series all the same. And a great game, even if you haven't spent decades waiting for it. Very good review in terms of a roundup there. Now, there was a lot more 8s, guys. Hardcore Gamer gave it an 8 out of 10. IGN Italia, 8 out of 10. Multiplayer.it, 8 out of 10. Vandal, 8 out of 10. Games.ch. Siliconera, 8 out of 10. Hardcore Gamer, 8 out of 10. Gaming Bible, 8 out of 10. So a lot of good 8 out of 10 scores. Now let's get into the 7 out of 10 or 70 scores. We're going to start off with The Games Machine, 7.6 out of 10, saying Visions of Mana is an operation that excludes love for the reference brand, but which above all aims to be an extremely light experience for fans, or better yet, an excellent example of entertainment aimed at the younger and neophyte audience of RPGs, despite a gaming experience that is all in all simple. The Square Enix production still manages to stand on its own 2 feet thanks to the charm of its colorful and fairy tale universe of characters and the charisma of the cast of protagonists, all of which can be ascribed to the canons of the series. Okay, very interesting roundup there. Next up, we got Press Start Australia with the 7.5 out of 10, saying Visions of Mana feels like an RPG equivalent of being young and visiting a park in the summer. It's picturesque, warm, and full of hope, inviting you to set out and explore and maybe come home with a couple scratches or bruises, but always rewarding the effort with a new adventure or discovery. There's a fantastic balance of old and new ideas here, enough to satisfy patient series fans and newcomers alike. A hugely enjoyable main story, stunning environments, and satisfying combat going a long way to make up for some annoying technical and mechanical issues. Alright, next up is from WCCF Tech. 7.5 out of 10, saying Visions of Mana is a fun JRPG for the first 30 hours, but the continuous backtracking and overall padding left me feeling like my time wasn't being respected by the time Val's journey came to a close. So first time that we've heard about the backtracking and potential padding in a game like this, which is definitely interesting and something to think about. I know Final Fantasy Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth also has that padding accusation as well, so maybe there's some of it here too. All right, next up is from MMORPG.com, 7.5 out of 10, saying this: Visions of Mana does a good job of telling a deep, interesting story with a couple of memorable characters, but it also finds too many ways to detract from what's actually important. Additionally, the ideas around the combat systems are conceptually cool, however, in practice, they're not as interesting or fun as they could have been. Finally, the strength of the bosses could really use fine-tuning, as certain bosses that were supposed to be terrifying endgame challenges were a complete pushover, while there were that mini bosses almost wiped my party. Unfortunately, these inconsistencies all around prevented Visions of Mana from being a truly great game. Very interesting overall. So it depends on how you feel about that. Sometimes people want the main, let's just say, where that you go bosses and all that to be something that they can handle, and then others want that challenge coming from the side stuff that you explore, and then some want it to be, no, those bosses gotta really be a challenge no matter where you are or how much you've leveled up or whatever the case is. So it's definitely a balance that developers have to kind of pick and choose overall. All right, so we are done with the positive scores. Now we are moving into what they call mixed. Now I'm running down the list here, guys. The lowest score is 50. So even down to a 5 out of 10 is mixed. I think I got that wrong. I said, I think 60 or something like that. But yeah, a 5 out of 10 can be mixed. So there are a number of mixed scores here, from 5 out of 10 all the way up to about 7.4. And I'm not going to go over every single mixed score, but when it comes to 7 out of 10s, we have Inven, they gave it a 7.3. GamePro Germany gave it a 7.3. They did say that the beautiful graphics and great gameplay Visions of Mana are awesome. They don't distract from the story being a bit boring. EverEye.it gave it a 7.3 out of 10. CG Magazine gave it a 7 out of 10. Push Square gave it a 7 out of 10, and I do want to read what they had to say. As a nostalgia-driven retread of the classic Mana adventure, Visions of Mana is rock solid, but it struggles to be anything more than a reminder of how magical those old RPGs could be. If you look beyond the game's monotonous storytelling and tragically bland characters, the essence of an old-school excursion is here, and the exploration of wonderful environments and in battles against burly boss monsters. So he didn't necessarily like the characters in the story. There's some people that do like it, some people that don't. So it's really going to be subjective overall. Check out that demo and see how you feel about how the characters are talking and all of that. Now, The Gamer also gave it a 7 out of 10. Digital Trends, a 7 out of 10. Gaming Age, a 7 out of 10. Twinfinite, a really cool site, they gave it a 7 out of 10. Games Hub gave it a 7 out of 10. Screen Rant, a 7 out of 10. Game Reactor UK, a 7 out of 10 as well. So a number of 7s. So we are going to get into the lower scores here, and I do want to start. There is a 6.9 out of 10 from Spazio Games. Voxel, 6.5 out of 10. But GameSpot, very interesting here, a 5 out of 10 from GameSpot. And here's what they had to say in their roundup. There is a game here for someone willing to lower their standards enough. But trust me when I say there are hundreds of better RPGs for you to spend your time on. You do not need to waste it searching for a few nuggets buried here. Man, what a burial of Visions of Mana. So for any of those that are playing the game, do you guys agree with what GameSpot had to say here? At least your initial impressions and all that? I didn't get that from the demo. It definitely seems like a game that is worth checking out, even if you don't buy it day one, at least like on sale or something, especially if you love the Mana series. But hey, everybody does have their opinion. Now let's go over Inverse. They also gave it a 5 out of 10, and they said this: it's a shame nothing else in Visions lives up to its gorgeous presentation. While it's a joy to look at, I found it dull to trudge through, with too many undercooked systems, bogging down what's otherwise extremely simplistic gameplay. Even that wouldn't be a deal breaker if the story and characters were good enough. But alas, no luck there either. As someone with a soft spot in my heart for Secret of Mana, I keep hoping that the series will see another truly great game again someday. Unfortunately, Visions of Mana isn't it. So very interesting that this person does like Secret of Mana, but doesn't feel this game even holds a candle to it overall, because Secret of Mana also has very simplistic gameplay when it comes down to it. So very interesting to see here. Maybe they're expecting more of an evolution. Maybe next time there could be a game that they make that they feel is a bit better. I'd love to hear what they had to say, or at least their opinion on Trials of Mana and what they felt about that game. I think it'd be pretty cool to see how they rank those games overall, with Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana, and now this game. It seems like probably this game's at the lowest. But overall, it seems like the game, when it comes to the positives, it has a really good presentation slate. Music seems good, characters seem okay to good enough, gameplay seems interesting and fun, but some of the negatives are that it can get a bit repetitive. There's some padding that's going on here. Depending on how you feel about certain characters, those couldn't quite live up to what we've seen before with some of the other Mana games, or maybe just not up to some people's standards in today's day. So absolutely, like I stated after I played the game in the demo, it seems like a solid 7 to 8 out of 10 or so, and it looks like the reviews do reflect that. So what are your thoughts about Visions of Mana, guys, and the review roundup here? Do you plan on checking out the game at some point? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.